Hey everyone, welcome to the 5 Beer Plan. I'm Brian, and this is the ongoing saga of an everyman's ale trail. In this episode, I'll look at one of the oldest hop varieties, finish up my interview with Chris and Trevor from One Well Brewing in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and review Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale. In this segment of Looking for Lupulin, it's finally time to dig into the history and details of one of the oldest and best-known American hop varieties, Cascade. Cascade is the granddaddy of hop cultivars here in the United States. Named after the mountain range in the western United States, it was developed in the 1960s at Oregon State University for a USDA breeding program by Dr. Stanley Brooks and Jack Horner. Bred from hop parents English Fuggle and Russian Syrah, it was formally released as an aroma hop variety in 1971. One of the main goals of this research was focused on making the hop variety resistant to powdery mildew, which is problematic in hop fields. They achieved mild success to that end. It has a mid-season harvest time and ranges on the difficult side for harvest. Cascade hop yields average about 2,000 pounds per acre. Julian Healy's book, The Hops List, notes that this hop variety exudes a distinct spicy citrus aroma with hints of grapefruit. From an acid content, the alpha acid ranges from 4.5 to 8.9%, and beta acid ranges from 3.6 to 7.5%, making it a great dual-use hop variety. It also retains 50% of its alpha acids after 6 months of storage. In the last 20 years, there has been a cascade effect. This hop's popularity as a bittering hop in ales and lagers has driven both Australia and New Zealand to propagate and breed their own versions of cascade hops. The Australian variant is very similar in taste and aroma to its U.S. counterpart, leaning towards spicy citrus and grapefruit. In contrast, the New Zealand variant offers more citrus aromas and leans toward a more tropical grapefruit and lime. Since the New Zealand variety was so different due to the breeding and selection process, it was deemed a separate variety and given the name Taihiki in 2016. Historically, the number of acres of Cascade hops has faded a bit over the last 5 years here in the U.S., yielding to the more trendy aroma hops which tend to dominate the hop yards. Ranking number 1 in 2016 and 2017, this dual-use hop has gradually slipped to 4th place. Even though the overall acreage harvested in the U.S. has dropped by about 55% since that time, Cascade hops are still a mainstay. Along with Centennial, Columbus, Chinook, and Citra, it is still considered one of the cornerstones of modern craft brewing in America. Cascade was first used commercially by San Francisco's Anchor Brewing in 1975 and is used in its Liberty Ale. Other well-known beers that use Cascade as a primary hop are Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale, Founders Pale Ale, and Sam Adams' 76 Lager. If you're homebrewing, Amarillo, Columbus, and Centennial are possible substitutes for Cascade if you get into a bind. In this segment of Homebrew Hijinks, it's time to boil the wort. Wort is the term used to describe the liquid that comes from the previous step of mashing the grain. This liquid contains all the sugars that will be used as food for the yeast. Interestingly, the wort also contains amino acids that provide nitrogen to the yeast and some proteins that contribute to beer head retention. In the basic homebrew approach, it's necessary to add malt extracts right after mashing the grain. This is needed to impart the sugars into the wort. If one was doing an all-grain approach, there would be an intermediate step called lautering, which is separating the solids from the mash and the liquid wort. Once the wort is prepared, it is brought to a rolling boil in my uncovered stock pot. At that point, I set a timer for 45 minutes. Right away, I added a set amount of Centennial hops into the liquid. With 20 minutes left, I added Cascade hops into the liquid. With 10 minutes left, another batch of Cascade hops were added. And then finally, when time was up, I added Citra hops, which will give the beer some nice citrus aroma. Immediately, I took the stock pot off the heat, covered it, and put it into my sink. I added 2 7-pound bags of ice and enough water to bring it up to the level of the wort. I let this sit for 30 minutes to quickly cool the wort to a temperature in which the yeast will be able to operate comfortably. Next time, we'll pitch the yeast and kick off fermentation. Now, it's time for Barstool Banter. As Chaucer penned, all good things must come to an end. Sadly, this is the last of a 3-part interview with Chris and Trevor from One Well Brewing. I had a great time talking to them and learned a few things along the way, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. As an aside, when we were talking about my homebrew adventure, Trevor offered to answer any questions that I had, so I want to give him a big shout out for being super helpful a couple of times. I'm going to continue on here. So one of the things that I noticed is your can art is pretty sweet. How do you guys come up with the can art and the names?
Again, with intention being a big part of what we're looking at here, one of the first hires that we made as a company was a young graphic designer by the name of Mike Clock and his company Stuff Brain Studio. Bringing him on board in the beginning of the business, I think, was a big blessing for us here to really make sure that we looked the part of the professional brewery. In the beginning, there wasn't a big budget, and so it was kind of a scary thing to add to the budget to get to that point. But we knew that by being as professional looking as possible, that would be the way that we get respect as far as being that company that people want to come to. And so, working with Mike was great and has been great. And it's a situation where as our company has grown, his company has grown as well. And, some of the ideas were his ideas, some of the ideas were my ideas, and a lot of the ideas were, collaborative ideas of kind of what was going on. A lot of the beer names and kind of lean into what we're doing with the can art. So yeah. The beer that a lot of people mispronounce there, the Jalapa, the idea behind the name there is it's the capital city of Veracruz, Mexico, where jalapenos are said to have originated from.
Oh, okay.
So we be from Michigan, are Michiganders. And if you're from Jalapa, Veracruz, Mexico, you're a jalapeno. Well, and then we're leaning into those ideas. So you mentioned the unicorn. The unicorn's got the sour tongue hanging out of his mouth because that's a sour beer. And Ripped Right are a juicy IPA, really being that comfortable seat, that comfortable beer that you're happy to go back to. And then, even our State of Bean, we have a Zen owl floating on a magic carpet. And, that was working with a local coffee company, and their coffee house was called Black Owl Cafe. So that's why we have that with the owl on it. So, a lot of what we're doing, intentionally to try to figure out, best ways to represent the beer, as well as coming up with a nice consistent flow. For us, the whole idea behind the community feel and all of that was, really wanting to represent the brewery in a positive manner. But we really look at our characters as positive symbols of the great things that we're doing here, and really just kind of finding that positive vibe overall, and really just ideas and characters that really make you smile when you see them. The bright colors, that's the fun characters, those kind of things. So that's just really been a key part of our business the whole time is, having a consistent branding plan and really trying to make sure that customers resonate in a positive direction with the beers and with the marketing that we have for the brewery.
So Trevor, what is your favorite style of beer?
They're all my children. And I love all my children the same. There are some that I hang out with more often than others. Maybe one redheaded stepchild. I don't see that, once every few years. But I think cool-wise, I think barrel-aged sour beers, American wild ales, are awesome. I think the flavor and the unique characteristic and complexity that you can get by using wild yeast, maybe even collecting your own wild yeast, the historical idea of keeping beer in an oak cask, I think that stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
I do drink barrel-aged sours, not my everyday beer. I like juicies, I like session IPAs, I like lagers, I like stouts, porters. Every time someone asks me this question, I go back to, man, I guess I am a seasonal drinker. So I appreciate all styles. Not a big Rauch beer fan with 100% smoked malt. But other than that, I mean, like I said, they're all my children. I care for them the same and different in all the ways, and just want to nourish them as much as possible. And you know, they're my children, but they're also your buddies, your friends.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see other people drinking the good beers, that I love them even more.
How about you, Chris? Anything that sticks out as a favorite style of yours?
I think Trevor hit it earlier with the freshness of the beer. I've had too many beers that aren't fresh. I think that I'm at a point personally and professionally over the years and years of brewing beer, kind of like you mentioned, that I've tried most styles. I'm not afraid to try different beers. I'm maybe not a huge Belgian fan, but outside of that, I love tasting new beers that are fresh and well done. I normally ask when I go to a brewery what their freshest beer is.
Okay.
What's your newest rotational beer, or what is your biggest selling beer? Assuming that those beers would be maybe the freshest. A well done fresh beer is my favorite beer versus kind of looking at a style and saying it has to be that style. It's just like anything else. I mean, if you never continue to try new things and continue to try to expand your understanding of, not only the industry that you work in, but the things that you enjoy, then you're going to tend to miss out on new things. And that's why, when I taste beer with people and they say, well, I'm not normally an IPA person, or I'm not normally a sour person. My retort to that is, especially if I'm drinking with them, I say, well, here, you try it. If you don't like it, I'll drink it.
Yep.
Or you can spit it on the ground, or you can do whatever you want. And I try not to get offended if that happens with our beer, but I also understand that everybody has different taste buds. And if you just refuse to try something new, you're likely to miss out on something that you may enjoy quite a bit. Because I wouldn't say the first sour beer I drank was my favorite beer. And in industry conferences, we've had questions proposed to rooms of brewers to say, who here's first beer was a craft beer? And you look around at all of these lifetime brewers, and basically nobody raises their hand. And everybody's like, well, yeah, my first beer was a Busch Light, because that's what I stole out of my parents' fridge, or that's what was at the party I went to, or whatever. And so again, I really just think that continue to expand my understanding of my industry and my palate in general, I think is most important for me.
Is there a beer out there that either of you have always wanted to try, but due to distribution or seasonal nature haven't been able to get to it?
I think for me, being in the industry, the idea of waiting in long lines for beers and doing that kind of stuff has kind of lost its luster. Yeah. We've tasted wonderful beers. I mean, we were very fortunate this year to be next to WeldWorks at Great American Beer Festival and being able to try their wonderful beers and talk with their brewers about that kind of stuff. And, for me, I enjoy our beer so much. If you and I met up and you had something you wanted me to taste, I'd be so happy to taste it. And those meetups and those tastings that I think are stuff that I continue to enjoy. But, to really go out of the way to wait in lines for things and do that when we have so many tasty options and, a lot of other brewers even stopping in and dropping off their beers. It's like, I feel like I have a backlog of beers in my fridge already that I need to drink. As well as continuing our quality standard tastings with our own beers. So I definitely continue to try to, make sure that we're trying our beer on a regular basis as well, to continue to feel like we have the consistency through our own taps as well as cans as well.
To second what Chris was saying, this was the first time I was able to get to the Great American Beer Festival in Colorado. And I think that if anybody is in that spot in life that they wanted to taste some beers that they haven't had an opportunity to, or they feel like they can get their hands on it, it was a great time to be able to do that. It also confirmed the quality work that we're doing here at One Well. Pliny the Elder, for years and years when I was just getting into homebrewing and all of that, that was the beer.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to work at a place that beer nerds would come by and sample me these products, which was really cool. At the same time, going out to Colorado and tasting the beer on tap from their station, it just made me say, you know what? We're making some great beers here at One Well. And I'm really happy with what I get to drink every single day. So it's confirmation.
Awesome. That's one of my stretch goals, is to make it out to GABF some year.
You do it. You got to do it.
You just have to make sure you go to all the sessions, and then it's not as overwhelming.
Yeah, right. One last fun question for each of you. So, Chris, if you were a beer, what kind of a style would you be and why?
I don't know, man. I think I'd be an easy drinking beer because
Okay.
I'm easy to get along with. You know,
It'd be a little hoppy.
I-
He's pretty hoppy.
I'm pretty hoppy on a regular
I think
basis.
it'd be a hoppy, hoppy, easy drinking beer.
But I definitely think that my personality lends that to being friendly, with everybody, and really kind of getting along, easygoing attitude,
Approachable.
very approachable. And so I think that if I did have to be a beer, hopefully I'd be a beer that everybody could drink.
I like that. How about you, Trevor?
You know those like sparkle beers? Like the I'm just totally I think I'd be like a sparkle berry beer, like a sparkle-ish
glitter beer.
Glitter beer, yeah.
yeah.
I think like a tie-dye glitter beer, aged in a tequila barrel.
Something big AVB, because when Trevor gets around you, he'll hug you.
Yes.
He'll keep you extra
I will
warm.
keep you warm. Maybe like an American strong ale.
And meeting this guy, you'll be smiling the whole time, right? So that high ABV will really get you there.
That's funny. Yeah, I think the first sparkle beer glitter beer I ever had was the unicorn farts from Duclaw, I think is where it's from. So that was kind of weird.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that glitter beer. I don't know, man. You know, tie-dye glitter. I would do that. I could do that. Very unique.
For the listeners, Trevor is a regular tie-dye wearer. The man even has tie-dyed underwear. So
Wow.
That's where he's coming from here. There's videos out there on the internet, I'm just saying.
Well, hey guys, it has been a blast talking to you. I really appreciate the time and can't wait to get back out there and take a second look and a second drink of the beers out there now that I kind of have a better idea of the story and the passion that you guys have. Clearly, your staff did a really great job of welcoming us when we were there and making us feel like we were the number one customers that were sitting there at the bar. But it sounds like that just permeates the entire organization that is One Well Brewing. So congrats on that and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Brian. I mean, without the staff that we have here, we would be nothing. So we appreciate those kind words.
Absolutely. You guys have a great rest of your day and look forward to maybe raising a glass with you at some point.
Thanks for your time, Brian.
Hey, Thank you.
Last call.
It's nearly time to wrap things up, but first, one more for the road. This episode, I'm drinking Pale Ale from Sierra Nevada Brewing. From the brewer, our most popular beer, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, is a delightful interpretation of a classic style. It has a deep amber color and an exceptionally full-bodied complex character. Generous quantities of premium cascade hops give the Pale Ale its fragrant bouquet and spicy flavor. Without further delay, this beer is the gold standard of pale ales. It has been checked into Untappd more than 1.2 million times. That is a staggering number. I'll bet Ken Grossman had no idea how wildly popular this beer would be, or even kickstart the American craft beer revolution when he brewed those first few batches back in 1980. For those that are brewing their own beer, keep in mind that it wasn't until Ken's 10th batch of pale ale that he finally perfected the brew. In June of 2019, I was on a 2-week business trip to South Carolina. Knowing there were a lot of great beer destinations within reasonable driving distance, I asked some of my southern beer friends where I should go for a Saturday brew tour. The resounding answer was Asheville, North Carolina. So I hopped into my rental and drove 1.5 hours to one of the must-see breweries of the Carolinas, Sierra Nevada's Mills River location, located about 20 miles south of Asheville. Nestled in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, this 180-acre site is amazing. It was a scenic 1-mile drive to the brewery, and when I drove into the parking lot, it was similar to visiting Disney World for the very first time. It had lots of wide open spaces. There are vegetable gardens used for locally sourced food that they serve, walking trails, brewery tours, and of course a massive tap room. Needless to say, having Sierra Nevada Pale Ale fresh from the tap was a real treat. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this into my pint glass. It definitely pours a great amber color. It's very clean. Has a little bit of effervescence to it. The way that I poured it, it has a nice, generous, fluffy white head. I mean, it is beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and take a few sniffs and see what I find here. Yep, so just like I would expect, this does have a nice fragrant nose on it. It's got a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit of maybe a flowery bit. It's very pleasant. Nothing overpowering, just very, very subtle. So I'm going to go ahead and take a first sip here. This beer has a nice, balanced hop bite to it. I definitely get that grapefruit kind of profile that the Cascade hops impart. And it's very interesting. The start of the sip, when it hits your tongue, there's a little bit of maltiness, a little bit of almost, I'm going to say caramel kind of flavor. And then once it rides to the back of your tongue, it really gets that nice bitterness that comes from the Cascade hops. It almost has a little bit of a drying effect on the finish as well, which is very interesting. So when I look at the IBU value, it's at 38, so it's a mildly bitter beer. It's not overly, so it's not killing my palate. Yeah, I can see why this is the gold standard of pale ales. It is just a solid beer through and through. Really don't have a whole lot extra to say about it. You know, the Cascade hops, as I've talked about, has kind of a spicy citrus to it and a little bit of grapefruit on it. I'm definitely getting those notes through this beer. Again, getting a little bit of fragrant aroma to it. Definitely getting that grapefruit bitterness, maybe just a little bit of spiciness. But I'd say if you are not someone that has ever checked this beer in, I would definitely recommend it. It's a great example of a mildly bitter beer. It has just a real nice, even flavor to it. And again, it really isn't overly bitter. So it's pretty widely available throughout the country. I know that here in the Midwest, we can easily get Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Bought it from one of my local convenience stores here. Coming in at 5.6%. This is one of those beers that you could, certainly, buy a 12-pack of them. This one came in a bottle. You can get them in cans and hang out with your friends, playing some yard games, barbecuing, chilling by the bonfire. It's definitely one of those beers that would really hit the spot, especially on a hot summer day. So I give this one 3.5 tasters out of 5 on the flight board. Cheers, Sierra Nevada. Well, if you've got a beer you'd like me to drink and describe, leave a comment below. If you're a brewer and have one in mind, direct message me on Instagram and let's see what we can do. That's all for this episode of the 5 Beer Plan. With so many podcasts out there, thanks for choosing to listen to mine. Join me next time as I talk about ABV of beer, continue my homebrewing adventure, and sit down with the one and only Tom from Two Tom's Brewing in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Remember to hit the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes. I'd love to hear from you, so please follow me on Instagram, 5beerplan 2022, and leave a comment to let me know what your favorite beer with Cascade hops is. Be sure to support your local breweries, choose your beers wisely, and drink them responsibly. Until next time, keep walking your ale trail, and stay thirsty, my friends.